Grow hard about what you want to be. Step 4. Everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. My name is Bradley Ball, and it is so good to have you with us. We are back and better than ever. Tuesday, we announced at Build to the world Microsoft Fabric, and we kicked off our massive digital event, of which day 2 begins in 1 hour from now. So welcome to the pre-show. To be able to get to that digital event, remember you can go to aka.ms analytics at Build digital event. And we've got a banner for that. Josh, do you want to throw that up there? I'm trying to stay hands off today. I'm gonna let you actually do the banners this time. I promise. I'll be good. I'll be good. There we go. All right, there it is. aka.ms analytics at Build digital event. If you go to that will redirect you to one of the live streams that we have. This will be simulcast on Power BI's YouTube channel, Azure Synapse Analytics YouTube channel, and of course, Guy in a Cube's YouTube channel, of which we have our good friend Adam Saxton, one half a Guy in the Cube, sitting here with us today.
Yo!
Great to have you back, Adam.
Yeah.
We've got Adam for the first 30 minutes. So if you've got questions, now's the time to ask them. Start them pouring in. If this is your first time finding your way over to our channel, give us a like, give us a subscribe. This is Tales from the Field. It is so easy to interact with this show. If you're wondering how to do it, we are streaming live right now on Twitter under the accounts of Sequel Balls, Tales from the Field, Josh Ludewan, Niraj Jafari. We are on LinkedIn under Sequel Balls. We are also streaming on our hub at Tales from the Field on our YouTube channel. If you make a comment on any of those streams, one of my wonderful co-hosts will see that and they will add it to the stream. And of course, let me introduce those co-hosts before I get any further. I am joined by Josh Ludeman, Niraj Jafari, who successfully ran into the Speed Force, and none of us realize it because it's his reality. We may have Dan Taylor, and we may have Andreas Padilla popping in. Andreas was here a little while ago, but I think we lost him. But joining us, we have our very, very special guests, our friends, Adam Saxton from the Fabric Cat team. And of course, one half of the world famous duo of Guy in a Cube. And we also have Mr. Bradley Schatt from Fabric Cat. And Mr.
2 for 2.
Look at there we go. Cal Yella.
Cal from the Synapse
Fabric
TSC team.
Oh, what?
Oh,
Okay.
Don't blame them.
I had a minor heart attack. I was wondering about that. Okay, good. Okay, everybody is here from Fabric
sorry,
Cat.
my caching wasn't updated. Sorry.
So if you've got questions, if you've got anything, I mean, because let's face it, we've trended on Twitter. We are Microsoft Fabric. It is the big news in the technology industry that is out there right now. So now is your time. I guess before we get too far, what we should talk about is the big digital event. And then yesterday, let's kind of talk about what happened. And I guess let's go around. Al, Brad, Cal, let's talk about what were some of the different sessions. I know you were there watching all of them, participating in the Q&A chat. What stood out to you? And maybe we start with Mr. Bradley Schatt.
Huge amount of stuff covered yesterday. I think the thing that stood out for me, Adam made a comment yesterday that I might be moving toward the lake house, like that might be my new thing. And there was a lot of cool stuff with the One Lake session in there, just about making the lake house more accessible, having all the data just stored in one lake and available with all these engines. Something that we'll talk about a little bit later today, I think as well. But One Lake stuff was really cool. And then honestly, I know it's a lot of future stuff. It's not available yet, but some of the things that we talked about in those first couple of hours, just with things that are going to help people develop faster and more efficiently, I think were really, really cool and things to keep an eye out on. So those were the two big things for me.
Excellent. I should have started with A, and so I'm going to go over to Mr. Adam Saxton. So what stood out to you yesterday?
First off, the excitement was off the charts. The chat was bananas all over the place. So that really warms my heart. All the hard work the team has done overall for all the different teams, from marketing to the field to engineering, It's great to see this level of excitement. I haven't seen this in a very long time. So that was my first takeaway. Lots of different questions. We saw the gamut, right? It's pricing. How can I get it right now? So we talked yesterday about the admin piece has to be enabled right out of the gate. So everyone wants to get their hands on it. They want to know how to do it. A couple of questions I saw yesterday, which seemed to be a theme, was it's like Dataverse. Like, how do we connect to Dataverse? And I was a little shocked. I was like, wow, there's a lot of people that are using that in like Dynamics and Dataverse and data. And so stay tuned today in the YouTube event. There is going to be a segment of how you can actually leverage Dataverse inside of Fabric. So there's some great stuff there. So I don't want to give it away, but watch today. We got you covered.
I'm really excited about that. I've had several customers I've worked with in the past to be able to get dynamic data over into Azure Synapse Analytics. Dataverse was a huge component of that, and what a great advent it was to be able to get that data and get it up to date to allow people to take advantage of the analytic capabilities of that. I am super, super excited to see where we are going to go with that today.
Well, and it was those questions too, right? Those thought process. Look, in the old world, like Synapse Link was used to handle some of that. So like, where does that fit in the Fabric world? And so that's what you need to watch for today.
Excellent stuff. Is there a particular session that people should be watching for that?
There is a segment. It was a small drop in, so it's actually not part of the build catalog. When we recorded the stuff last week, it was like a 7-minute drop in showing like how to connect Dataverse into Fabric. So you specifically have to watch the YouTube event today. That's the only spot you're going to see it.
I love it. That's great. So stay tuned and stay on the stream because you don't want to miss that, especially if you're a Dataverse user.
Yep.
Cal, how about you? What stood out to you yesterday?
Yeah, so like Brad and Adam said, a lot of excitement, lot of pings on and offline for people asking questions. And also one thing, and maybe I'm biased by saying this, but my favorite of the day yesterday was the Priya Sathi session on Synapse Data Warehouse in Fabric. So if you missed it, it's towards the end of the show yesterday. So you should definitely go and watch it. A lot of exciting demos that Priya showed, things like using the query editor, how how intuitive it is, and how you can build queries and do things like filtering, etc., without actually writing queries, and the visual query editor where you don't even have to write a single piece of code to run analytics across your data warehouse. And most important thing towards the end of that presentation is the replicator demo. So I get this lot of questions from customers asking, hey, so I do have my Synapse investments now. I have Synapse data warehouses. How do I go about what do I need to do to migrate this? How complicated it is and all. You should those things are all answered in that last part of the demo from Priya on the replicator, how we are actually going to make it easy to replicate the data from your existing Synapse data warehouses into Fabric workspace while still being able to parallelly work with it, run applications across and slowly transition to Fabric, so without causing a lot of headaches in such migrations. And also that's really worth to watch. And we like to know all your feedback on that and what you think, how it is going to help. So it's definitely, so that's Synapse Data Warehouse presentation. And of course, not to miss the initial parts of hearing from Arun and Amir multiple times on how this the total Fabric works, and the OneLake, and how different engines work together to use that OneDrive like experience with OneLake. So OneLake is your OneDrive for data, essentially, is what Arun says. So yeah, so definitely, if you, I would be watching it again, and I would encourage you to watch those cool demos and everything that was presented yesterday, and be prepared for another exciting day today.
Absolutely. Well, and I think people need to know Priya's a big deal. I mean, she is. She did a lot of the internal presentations to our group. She's so instrumental in the process, and so she gave a
Oh,
great presentation at the
She's
end.
the one heading up the data warehouse stuff from the PM side of it. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
She
no,
knows. She knows.
Exactly. When people go, who do I go to about this? It's her. She's a
Yeah.
big deal. Dan, I saw you had something to say.
Yeah, so I'm super excited. And it goes back to some of the things Cal was saying, and I got some questions. So you're right, Adam. I have not seen this much excitement about a product in a long time in the questions. And some of the questions I was getting privately yesterday was, okay, we can connect the OneLake through a tooling, right? Are we going to be able to use some of our other tools like Visual Studio,
Yep.
Management Studio?
Yeah.
What are we going to get
Spot on.
endpoints to be able to do this, right, in the future? Or are they there now?
And the answer is 100% yes. So you have ADFS and blob endpoints directly to OneLake. So if you have processes today, maybe you're using Databricks or something and you're leveraging Azure Data Lake storage. Well, guess what? You can just update the URL and bam, there you go. It just works.
Yeah, as
Yeah,
a
the
matter
other
of fact.
the other thing
Oh, go ahead, Brad.
I was gonna say the other thing too is while all the tools kind of just work together from a service perspective, we did get the question yesterday. What about like VS Code and
Mhm.
Management Studio and all that? Same thing. Just
Yeah.
take the URL, take that SQL endpoint, pop it into Management Studio, pop it into Azure Data Studio. Yeah, we show a lot of stuff that's really cool in the browser that makes this easily accessible and all that. But if you're a traditional dev that wants to use your tools, bring them all.
Yeah.
We're happy
So-
to use any of those.
And I'll also tease today in Justina's session talking about Lakehouse. She's going to show a really cool VS Code integration with that. So
Ooh.
it's amazing.
Oh, that's exciting. I love it when we get to see the demos. And there were people in the chat specifically asking about VS Code yesterday. So those folks need to make sure that they stay tuned because they're going to get exactly what they wanted. This is
Yeah.
fantastic
Daniel,
stuff.
great call out on the endpoint thing. That was 100% right.
Very nice. Very nice. So I was going to say, I'm going back and forth between everybody. Sorry about that.
Virtual high five.
There we go. Very nice. Right in the screen. Josh is in the middle. It's a high five
Yeah.
sandwich. I don't
Yeah.
know. All right. So we don't have any
Boy, this
questions
went
coming
downhill
in yet. It really did.
Oh my gosh.
I was going to say, but we have some demos. Now, before we get to the demos, one of the things I wanted to ask, and we've touched on a lot of these already, but yesterday there were a lot of Q&A items that came up that we kind of saw that were somewhat repetitive. And I didn't know, Brad, I think you had one specifically that you wanted to touch on.
So we get the question, and I think Adam had talked about this a little bit yesterday, but we got this question yesterday in the chat several times about, well, where do I go? Do I go to Synapse? Do I go to Fabric? What's happening with these? Just to reiterate what we talked about yesterday, Synapse is not going away. It's still going to be around, still going to be supported. There's no retirement plans for that service or anything like that right now. That will continue to be your data warehouse solution. That's generally availability for the time being. So I would say if you're in the process of building a warehouse or a lake house or anything right now, continue down the Synapse path. It's still going to be there. It's a valid place to go. Cal mentioned some of the stuff that we looked at yesterday in Priya's session about how we're going to be able to leverage those investments going forward. So continue to use Synapse. If you're that person that says, hey, you know what, I'm not in Synapse yet, but we're thinking about starting a project, then we've got a little bit more difficult decision. Maybe it's maybe it's a situation where you say, oh, let me go look at Fabric, but maybe we'll continue down the Synapse path anyway, just because timelines aren't going to line up and that sort of stuff. So that's a little bit different decision point, but we just want to reiterate, not losing all that investment that you've already made.
Well, and also think about the timelines, right? We're in public preview. And Amir called out the fact that one security isn't there yet. We're working on it. It's going to be there soon. And most companies, they don't want to necessarily leverage production type workloads on anything but general availability, right? And so obviously Synapse going to be there, right? But it's not, the PaaS offering's not going away.
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is, you don't have to pause your projects, be it a migration project or a greenfield project where you want to bring some analytics into the cloud, you don't have to pause or wait on anything, depending upon your timelines. For example, if your timelines, permits, and maps aligns with the GA timeframes of Fabric, then yeah, so you can go ahead and start testing it out and be prepared so that by the time we are ready to release, you can go ahead and start deploying those into production. But if you have very strict timelines or you want to get things into the cloud quickly, you don't have to wait. You can still work with our existing what is available with the Synapse Analytics, and then we can help you make that transition smooth if and when you're ready to do so.
Yeah, and a great call out. And Adam, you covered this yesterday on your live stream, but there is a lot that we're showing. There is a ton of content. I mean, we got 2 days full worth of content.
It's a fire hose.
It is. I mean, whenever people talk about joining Microsoft and getting hit by the fire hose and all the knowledge, welcome to Microsoft world. This is what we get hit with all the time. Here's a new service. Learn everything about it. But there is so much that is not covered within these sessions. There are literally hundreds of pages of Microsoft Docs that have been released as a part of this product. There are quick starts, there are learn paths. All of those links are in the description of this live stream. So that way that you can access this via YouTube, go over there, click on the description of the video. All the links are there for you to be able to copy out and paste. We've got them in a nice format, so they've got the URLs intact, or you can just click on them and open them in another browser window. There is a ton for you to go through. So if you missed this, don't feel like you've missed everything, because there's a lot we haven't even been able to scratch the surface on. So,
well, and I was actually going to say one of the things we haven't scratched the surface on as well was in really, I think some of the presentations even yesterday didn't really too, is some of the stuff that you can do with multitasking. And I think Brad Shat, you have a little something about that.
Yeah, so I think something we see a lot of times is, customers come to us and they're like, hey, yeah, stuff's all in here together. And, I don't know how much you get this, Adam, in the past from people in Power BI, but like traditionally, if you want to do something in Power BI and you need to like bounce back and forth between things, you got to open up multiple tabs and multiple windows and stuff, right? So we've done a lot of work in trying to bring those experiences together and making sure that it's easy to move between them and not break your flow and everything, because it takes a lot of time to context switch between these things, and you lose your place a lot. So there's some stuff that actually lit up in the Power BI portal recently, that
portal.
actually, or Fabric portal. Look, half the time I still call this stuff by its code name. So we're
everything is Fabric, Brad. It's all
Fabric.
It's all Fabric.
It's all Fabric.
But yeah, there's stuff in there now where you can actually switch back and forth between everything that you're doing inside the Fabric portal, so that you don't have to open up multiple browser tabs and do all that stuff everywhere else. So and we can take a look at that here in just a moment as well.
And okay, so I guess I'm up first, right?
Yeah.
Brad, okay, so I'm going to go first, and one of the things I'm going to demo is, from a traditional DBA point of view, I've got my database, I've got my lakehouse, I've got my data, but it's all sitting in CSVs. There's no metadata associated with it. There's no header files associated with it. So if I want to import this data, I've already done the work of bringing this into Synapse. So how do I build my table structures? And so I can actually go up to my warehouse. I can click on these 3 dots, and then I can say copy SQL connection string. It gives me that SQL connection string. And then I can come over to SSMS. I can open up my database engine, paste this in. It will probably have me authenticate. And if it does, forgive me while I hold up my phone to my face. Nope, I've done it recently enough. It remembers me. And when this loads, what I'm going to see is that I'll be able to go and I'll be able to look at my warehouse, and I'll see there's my baseball warehouse already sitting right there. And you can see within my script, I can use my use statement. I don't believe I have any tables. I believe I've cleaned all of this up. So let me just double check. And once this comes through and I see that I don't have any tables, I'm going to run the script and I'm going to recreate all my tables. So I don't have to do this via import. I can have my table headers. Here's a big group of tables that I've got. The wonder of doing things live, right? And you can see there's my Dimnate baseball rosters, baseball stats, baseball teams. And then I can come back over to Fabric and I can go ahead and kick off some pipelines. So I'm going to kick off this one first, and I'm going to open up my other one and kick it off. And then we're going to walk into those a little bit. And for my very first one, this is a pretty simple one where I've got my source. I'm doing my Azure Data Lake store, and I'm doing text delimited. For my destination, well, I'm selecting my table that I've already loaded, and I've got my schema associated with it. I don't need to say auto create on this. My mappings are set up so that way I can pull in these values via strings, and you can see how they're mapped. And I've got this, and it's just going to run, and it's going to work just fine. I come over to my my baseball dimensions.
Ooh, look at that multitasking in the lower left. You've got it right there.
Absolutely. You can see I've got my dependent transactions right there. I'm loading my baseball stats data. I'm loading my team data and then my rosters. And if I come over here, I can see I've got some about 12 million rows in this, and I can see how this is processing right now. I'm already 9 million rows that I've read into this. But if I come in, the specific thing I wanted to point out was here I needed to do a wildcard path. And I just realized that Zoom It is not on. So when I did Control-1, it did absolutely nothing. So let me get that fired up.
By the way, Adam, I'm team multitask. I know you tried to coin that phrase yesterday on your post show. I'm all in team multitask all the way.
Yeah, there was that. That apparently was divisive.
I like multitask as well, as you can see. And I've got my baseball stats right here that I've selected. The mappings, I've also got that. And there were 96 columns on this. I didn't want to have to recreate this. So going into SSMS and recreating this was really, really easy. Once my data is fully loaded, let me come over here and check my progress. I've got this almost loaded, and these other two will load up as well. Let me validate that my date dimension. Yep, that's succeeded. Once this data is in my data warehouse, I've got the capability that I can begin to interact with that. As a matter of fact, once this table loads, I can come over to SSMS and I could do a simple count statement. Buck Woody always says type in demos. Just remember that at home, kids. I can see, I mean, look at how fast that came back. 12 million records. And that was a sub-second query for me to be able to execute against that. So if I'm a SQL DBA, this is not that foreign to me. Like Adam was saying earlier, I can take that endpoint and I can connect to this and I can utilize this. And I've got that familiarity sitting right there with SSMS. If I come back over, let's check and see how my loading is going. Almost completed. And one of the things that I do want to show is with this data loaded, if I come back and I look at my warehouse, as these tables load, they're going to populate. And I'll be able to view the data. Let me do a quick refresh. And so there's my teams. There's my stats. I can see my date dimension is working. Now, the thing is, this data, if I look at this, the stats, this is every event in every baseball game that's occurred from 1922 until 2016. And why 2016? Well, that's when the data stops for me because I'm a Cubs fan. And we're not going to win another World Series for 100 years. So I'll see you in 21-16. But I need to be able to do some ETL. I need a box score on this, right? This is too many events. And not only that, I've got some combined fields like this game ID. I can see that I got CLE. That's a team code. That's the Cleveland and Guardians now. 1922 was the game date, April 12th. And then this last character, it's a 0 if it wasn't a doubleheader, which is 2 games played in one day, or it's a 1 or a 2 to tell us which game it was. So what I really need to do, let me come down here. I'm going to close that pipeline. All those have succeeded. Is I can either open up a new SQL query and I could run this here, or I could even go over and I could run create table as select statements. Now you'll notice all I needed to do was pull my distributions out of this. And this was the exact code I was running over in Azure Synapse Analytics. And so I'm going to hit F5. I'm going to execute this. I'm taking and you can tell it's a fairly complicated statement. I'm doing some machinations against my data. And I'm pulling from baseball stats. I'm joining on dim date. I'm also doing some complicated joins as well to be able to make sure that my baseball stats and my dim date can talk to one another. I'm looking for my team information. I'm doing a group by. On top of that, I need to do some updates specifically for two teams. The Florida Marlins used to be the Florida Marlins. Now they're the Miami Marlins. Anaheim Angels used to be the California Angels. So I need to make sure their team codes correspond with one another. And this takes a little over a minute to run, but when it finishes, I have my entire box scores table. And as a matter of fact, whenever that loads, I can come over here into my Fabric workspace, and that table will appear right here. So let me come over. You can see there's my different statement IDs. Everything should be in place. Let's come back over. You can see it's refreshing. There we go. Team box scores. Now from here, typically what I would do is I would run a Python notebook against this. But in order to be able to do that, I need to get this into OneLake. And so one of the things that I can do is I can come into a Lakehouse. Oh, wrong one. I can come into my Lakehouse. And if I want to, I could say get data. And I could say shortcut, right? Because I only need one copy of my data. So I could say, let's go over to my warehouse baseball. I want to get, say, my teams roster. Well, actually, let's just do the teams. There we go. I'm going to create that shortcut. And then if you look at that, you can see it's loading it. My team's data, as soon as this preview loads, it's going to load up my team's data. There's my team's data. Look at that. In like 3 clicks, I have my data now in my Lakehouse. If I want to, I could open up a notebook. I could begin working from there. That's the power.
So Brad, did you import that data with that shortcut into your Lakehouse?
I did. This amazing and incredibly good-looking man named Brad helped me earlier this morning to teach me how to do that. It was a wonderful experience, and it was super easy. I see Josh shaking his head.
This is why you can't have two Brads in the same room at the same time. It doesn't work. No.
It does work. The more Brads, the merrier.
What works better than 2 Brads are 2 Nirajas.
Well, that trumps everything.
I'm not going to disagree with you there. That's fantastic.
Like so that's where you go into a poker hand. You drop 2 Nirajas on the table and you just walk away because there's no beating it.
It's bigger than a mic drop.
No beating.
It's a Niraj drop.
Ooh. I like that. Niraj drop.
Niraj drop. Okay, I like that.
All right. So, Mr. Bradley Schatt, I'm going to put the focus on you now. If you want to share your screen, I know. Well, actually we are 1 minute. Yeah, we are 1 minute away. So I am going to. And Andreas Padilla, he is watching along. Hey, my friend, he said clone Niraj. Yes, please. We will take a Niraj. Absolutely. Replace us all with Nirajas. That'd be fantastic. Adam, thank you so much for joining us once again. I know you got this
Happy
big event that you got to get over to.
Yeah, got some work to do. So we'll see you over on the event.
You got it. Good luck.
Learn more great stuff. All right. See everyone.
Take care, sir. All right. So, Mr. Bradley Schatt, I am going to now share your screen because you've got some really awesome demos to be able to show as well.
I do. So, what we've got here, what we're looking at right now is my Fabric workspace. So I've got a bunch of stuff in here already for my airline data. I've got a data warehouse. I've got a lake house. I've got some pipelines and notebooks to be able to import and transform some data. But what we often see is customers come to us and they say, "Hey, that's a lot of stuff. I just want to do some prototyping, or I want to, maybe just get started a little bit more quickly. So rather than having to go write some Python code or build out a pipeline, is there an easier way for me to get started? And there's a couple different use cases for this, but I'm going to show you something here. If I click on this new button, I'm going to actually look at this new Dataflow Gen 2. So if you're familiar with data flows, they've been in Power BI for quite a while. If you go over to the ADF world, we've had data flows like mapping data flows and data wrangling data flows over there. But this is going to be, again, the next version of data flows here inside of Fabric for us. So it's going to look very familiar if you're used to using Power BI, Power Query, same kind of engine that we're working with here. And to get started, all I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little import text or a CSV file, and it's going to launch into a way for me to connect to my data. So of course I can bring data from my lakehouse or my warehouse or an existing Azure Data Lake storage account or any of that. But in this case, I've got a file on my computer that I just want to upload. I don't want to have to go set up all that other stuff. So I can just click upload a file, then I can browse, or I can just drag and drop it over here. We'll click on this button, and I've got the state abbreviations file, and we'll just let it upload that file real quick here. And without having to set anything up, I'm now ready to click next and start exploring my data and doing some data transformation. So what it's going to do right now is it's putting that onto my own SharePoint, SharePoint for Business, my drive there in the background, and it's going to parse out that file. It sees, hey, I've already got a comma delimited file. We'll do a little bit of cleanup here real quick though, and I'll click create. So this is going to launch me again into that query experience from Power BI or mapping data flows, the data wrangling data rather. This will be from to you. But I'm going to notice some things in my data. Well, first of all, we'll notice, hey, my column names are actually in the first row. So I'm just going to click this little use first row as headers button. It's going to move those up and parse through the file there. The other thing that you're going to notice inside of here is we've got a bunch of Canadian data inside of our state abbreviation table. So let's figure out how do we just narrow this down to just the US data in this particular case. So normally we'd have to go write a bunch of T-SQL, right? We'd have to do some substrings and all that kind of stuff. Over here, all I have to do is just right click on this and I say, I'm going to split this column by a delimiter. And I'm going to say comma, sure. And it's going to go through, it's going to parse out that text from my string there. And you're going to see a new column now that has the country in. And loading here, we'll be able to now just click on the column header. And inside that column header, we can now tell our query that we want to filter out the Canadian data and leave us just with the United States. So we'll filter out Canada. And now we can go back and just do a little bit of just general cleanup on our query here. So I'm just going to, while this is running, I'm just going to remove this last column out the end here. So I'm going to say remove column, and then we'll rename this other column over here to state name instead of just description 1. So what you also notice at the same time is over here on the right-hand side, you can see every single step that I just went through. And I can actually go click on any one of those steps and go look at what the transformation was along the way. The other thing that's really awesome is I've got a little visual representation up here at the top of the screen that says, here's everything that you did along the way in order to get the data cleanup completed. And then once I've got all the data completed, all this cleanup done, all I have to do is come over here in the bottom, click add destination, tell it I want to drop the cows, and it's going to automatically pick up my lakehouse from inside my workspace here and allow me to write this out to an existing table and just append the data to it, or it'll even let me create a brand new table inside of my lakehouse. So super easy way to get started with this. And I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting use cases for this in the future.
That's absolutely amazing. You and I were talking about this, I think, when you first showed me this demo. And
but we want to put it inside this lakehouse. We're not going to go through the rest of the stuff here, but
Oh, did you want to keep going a little more? I can share your screen.
No, I was gonna say we don't need to let it actually go through and load all the data and everything here. I just want to show you this is where we pick it up here, new table, existing table, let it drop it into that state abbreviation file, and we're good to go.
Yeah, there we go. I've got you back. Very nice.
Right. Sorry, you were saying something, Red?
No problem. Yeah. So I was going to say, we were talking earlier, and I had told you I had a customer and they were migrating from SAP HANA, and they were a very small shop, and they specifically went out and they purchased, and this is a couple of years ago, a third-party software just to be able to make their migration pattern for their data simpler, because they didn't have the skill set to be able to write all the ETL. They weren't going to have budget to be able to hire a new person. They weren't going to let somebody go get that new skill set. And so they adopted that third-party process to be able to design that in that visual manner, to be able to call back and forth. That's so easy, and that is so helpful to people that may be more visual in nature, that are looking for low-code options to be able to do this. It's so much more easy to be able to maintain those kind of things. So it really opens the barrier to other customers.
Yeah, and Brad, one of the things I was actually thinking while
for sure,
the wonderful Mr. Shat was walking through all that was it reminds me a lot of Power Query, and it brings the good pieces in there where you have the steps going down the right hand side to actually go back through, maybe alter them, change the order. But then it also brings in the best of breed, at least in my opinion, of the mapping data flow. So you have the visual representation where you can actually visualize my data is going through these steps. Bringing those two together, it was beautiful. I just loved it myself. Sorry, Brad, I heard you jumping in too.
Oh, and
no, I think those are going to be very common use cases that we see.
Excellent stuff. So I did want to point out to folks real quick that the digital stream countdown has indeed started. We've got about 13 minutes to go till the end of our event. Just remember, where you want to go is you want to head over to, and let me find the right one.
You have a wrong one. This is day one.
Yeah, I'm showing day one.
Well, so just so you know, and I don't know if that's my mistake, but this is the link that is in the iCalendar request for day 2.
Oh, okay.
And this is where it directed me. You're not wrong. I was a little confused by the digital event day 1, so I'm hoping that this link is correct. I'm imagining by the countdown that we are all in the right place. So keep in mind that this is the link, aka.msanalytics@build digital event. And it's saying that the launch event starts soon in 9 minutes and 25 seconds. So
it's day 2 for those of you joining fresh. Like, it's not day 1, day 2. I don't know why it's showing day 1, but
yeah, I'm not sure either. I couldn't find a different link. Cal, if you
no,
have
it
a
could be
different link,
it could be a mistake on their side, on the organizer's side, showing old slide or something. So
gotcha. Yeah, it completely could be, because yeah, I'm not sure. I'm a little confused. I'm hoping that we're going to the right place. If not,
I think if you hover over that, it's got the full 3-hour stream from yesterday, doesn't it? Yeah, that's yesterday's for sure.
Yeah, that is definitely yesterday's. So we need to figure out what is the stream. What is the right link? Because right now, if you use this link, that's where it sends you.
If you just go to the main Power BI YouTube page or the Guy in a Cube YouTube page, we should be able to grab it from there as well.
Let's see. I'm going to go to Guy in a Cube.
Yeah, it's showing day 1 for me as well. I tried to go to the link that I have for the day 2, and it's showing.
Yeah. So sure enough, it's got day 2 right here. So, and let's see, this is definitely not where we're being directed to. There's 66 folks waiting, so it looks like we've got some folks in here. I'm going to hide this link, and we'll create a new banner with Adam's link. And so that'll get us over there. And then what we'll do is I'll probably ping Adam once we go dormant to be able to make sure that he knows that this link is not pointing to the right place, that the AKA is not. And then maybe we just make sure we tweet this, we get it out on LinkedIn, but you definitely want to make sure that you're on the digital event day 2. All right. Great stuff. Now, Brad, I think you had another demo for us. Do you have another demo that you'd like to do?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out one other thing that I thought was really interesting from yesterday. It was something that we didn't really dive into a whole lot, but kind of showed up in one of the pieces of the One Lake presentation. And I think it'll pop up again today in the Lakehouse session. But there's this really cool piece of functionality called the One Lake File Explorer. And so what you can actually do is you install this little utility, and rather than having to open up a web browser or Azure Storage Explorer or something like that to go explore your Lakehouse, you can actually just use the File Explorer on your computer. And so when you install this, you open up File Explorer, gives you a whole list of every single workspace that you have access to, and you can actually drill into any of the individual files. So like this is a list of all the workspaces in Fabric that I have access to. And if we look at this introducing Microsoft Fabric workspace that we were just looking at a few minutes ago, let me see if I make these a little bit bigger for everybody. You'll notice that I've got 2 folders inside of here, one for my Lakehouse and one for my data warehouse. And if I were to drill into my Lakehouse, you'll notice that I've got both my files section and my tables section here. Just like if you open the Lakehouse in the browser, you've got files and tables. And I can go into my files section. And this is a part that I think is really awesome. Is this sample data? This actually doesn't live in my inside of my Lakehouse. If you were to go to my web browser and pull this up, this is actually a shortcut that goes to Azure Data Lake Storage. But that doesn't really matter, because here in One Lake, we can just drill right into this and we can go look at every single piece of data. And this data that I'm looking at right now is actually in my ADLS account. So if I wanted to, I could find one of these files. You know, this is going to be incredibly useful for people that are doing troubleshooting. You say, hey, I got this error message. I want to go take a look at the file. I don't have to go open the browser and go search for it anymore. I can just go over here, look at what was inside my date file and see maybe the headers weren't in there and it was supposed to be, or something like that. And I can download, upload, modify data inside of here. So if I want to easily fix that file, I can just
that is bananas.
A new copy of it.
So, do you have a link for this? How do we install?
As a matter of fact, Niraj, we
okay.
well, actually, no, that's not the link. I did add it today, though. Oh no, that is it. Learn.microsoft.com. One Lake File Explorer. If you go to your favorite search engine, Bing, right? It's Bing for everybody. All right, that's the most popular one. Type in One Lake File Explorer, and it's going to get you over there. You might need to put in Microsoft Fabric One Lake File Explorer, but you download this, you install this, and then you're going to have that ready to go. Brad, I absolutely love this, because this makes it to where we don't need to have Storage Explorer or mess around with SAS tokens to be able to access things, to be able to validate that our storage is all in the right place, right?
Yeah, this is kind of that whole unification of all these pieces. It's One Lake, one set of security, one copy of the data. All that stuff kind of comes together here. So like I said, there's no SAS token that I have to do to set this up. I just install it, I sign in, all my security from One Lake automatically picks up here. So if I don't have access to the workspace, I don't have access to the files, I don't get access to them in my browser. So just piggybacks off of everything that we've already seen yesterday in the event, and that we'll see today in the event as well.
Well, and I love that, because I got to tell you, while it's really nice in Synapse Analytics, you can view the File Explorer and you can do many things from that point of view. It's also, you're kind of still married at the hip with File Explorer, because you've got to create the different SAS tokens, or look at the permissions, or manage the ACLs. There's a lot to be able to do. And if you don't have these things done just right, then your access may not work, your authentication may not work, and it's so much to be able to configure. I love it that this makes it so much easier for us to be able to find this.
It did it for me in
So-
1 minute. I just installed it up as soon as you put the link, and it's there.
That's
And that is
that's
how fast
awesome.
it works.
Wow. Hold on. Say that again, Niraj. Let me put
I
you on the
just-
big screen.
I mean, I just did it in like as soon as I click the link, and in 1 minute I have it in my Windows Explorer, File Explorer.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
More than Star-Lord loves his Zune. We're all going to get ready to love the One Lake File Explorer. This is going to be fantastic. Well, so looking over at the stream, it looks like this is the countdown before the countdown that we got yesterday, but it looks like the live stream is almost here. And yes, now
No, it's
congratulations.
Yeah.
Now, you've waited in line. Now you get to wait in line again. We've got 15 minutes before we start the day 2. Remember some of the things that we talked about for this day 2 launch. We talked about how there's going to be that little snippet specifically that Adam and Patrick did while they were recording about Dataverse and how to be able to get your Dataverse data over into your Microsoft Fabric. And so you're going to want to make sure to watch out for that, specifically when they are in between those sessions. And then, Cal, is there anything in particular you would say, look out for this today?
Yeah, there are a lot of great sessions lined up by many people. So it starts with the Spark session. So there is Justina from the PM team is going to start talking about the Spark based, the Fabric investments that they're making and how it makes things easy. The next version of Spark that's going to be integrated. And my favorite is the real-time analytics. Using Azure Data Explorer, how that helps people ingest, stream data in real time, and then run analytics at petabyte to exabyte scale is what we are targeting these days, to run those analytics on the real-time streaming of the data using Azure Data Explorer. You don't want to miss that. So that's going to be my favorite session of the day today. Anything else, Brad? You want to?
I think there's definitely going to be some interesting things for those folks that are wanting to take a look at Power BI today. All that, how this ultimately gets into users' hands at the end of the day. The other thing, it's not as interesting of a topic for most of the technology geek people that we normally talk to on a daily basis, but there is going to be some stuff today talked about admin and governance that's going to be extremely important as we start to stitch all these pieces together. Those are going to be really, really important topics. So you're going to see things on that today and coming in the future. How do we monitor this? How do we govern it? What does that one security model look like? So be sure to check out that session later today as well on governance.
Good point, Brad. Yeah, so security and governance. I know a lot of geeky people doesn't talk about, but all businesses need it. And that's definitely a session. And during that session, the Microsoft Purview integration to use capabilities like data catalog, data loss prevention, auditing. So definitely that is something that you want to see, how we are integrating the well-known Microsoft Purview integration into Fabric to get the data governance into the entire Fabric.
And sorry, Dan, I'm going to let you go in a second. I just got word from Adam. They have updated it. So this link is good. This link is pointing to day 2, aka.ms analytics at Build Digital event. As you can see on the screen, it is pointing us over to the Power BI stream, but this is also live streamed over on Gaia Cube and Azure Synapse Analytics. There's no wrong place to consume this. Go to wherever you want, make sure that you consume the data and that you're part of the live stream. And again, just a quick reminder, we've got a couple seconds left. Bradley, Shat, Cal, you're both going to be on the live stream answering questions. So is Adam Saxton and a host of other people that we have from the Fabric Cat team. Dan, what do you want to say real quick?
No, I just love it. I'm looking forward to updating my security session that I do to the new security session because it seems like it's going to be a lot simpler in the new fabric.
Fantastic. Brad, Cal, any parting thoughts as we finish the pre-show for today?
No, I just really appreciate you guys having us. Looking forward to all the great fabric content that I'm sure you guys are going to be putting out in the weeks to come. I saw you guys dropped a video yesterday already, so everybody should definitely go check that one out. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I was going to say, so I'm sure everyone is excited about all the features and around Fabric that we've been demoing and presenting, but guess what? We barely started. So wait for a lot of other things coming up in the future. So we can't wait to partnership with everybody to make sure that Fabric becomes the analytics platform for everyone around. So looking forward to work with you all and keep watching this space for more updates and more demos, presentations, etc. as we make progress.
Excellent. Thank you all, everyone. Be good to one another out there, and we will see you next week. Go and enjoy the digital event. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody just do your thing.
Wake up,